Well, hello everybody. This is Dr. David Harper from Mosaic Life Care, and we welcome all the viewers to this uh, webinar called Think, Why Positive Thinking Ain't Enough. It's a pleasure to be your host and presenter for this evening, and it is my hope that by the end of this presentation, you will have taken some of the tidbits of information and begun to easily apply them into your life. Okay, so we're going to get started. So guys, the world of positive psychology has existed since the biblical days and has evolved over the years to a new age kind of way of thinking. But the reality is this state of mind is rooted in the existence of mankind. Here's a great quote where it states, positive thoughts are not enough. They have to be positive feelings and positive actions. And this is significant because most of what's missing seems to be the connection between what we think and what we actually do. There's a great quote talking about contradiction by Ayn Rand. And her comment is that the bigger the contradiction, the bigger the destruction, and the level of destruction is related to the level of contradiction. And positive thinking without action that's positive really lives in that level of contradiction. And so hopefully tonight we're going to be able to address that. But don't get me wrong, guys. I would much rather you believe that your life will amount to everything that you desire, as opposed to feeling that you're always going to fall short. But what gets me even more enthusiastic is to witness people, patients of mine, myself, who are fulfilling their life's mission and purpose. And it's in that bridging between what our vision is and what our actions are. So will this be easy? Obviously not, because nothing that is worthwhile ever comes effortlessly, guys, but the journey is worth it. And I can assure you that thinking positively is not the only ingredient to get you to your destination. We're going to be talking about a couple different resources at the very end that I have found effective. And so just so that you know, when I say desire, this is a subjective term that must be defined by you, because the beauty of a life vision is that it is unique to the beholder. So for you, it may be financial, may be health related, it may be relationship focused, adventure orientated, or a combination of all of these and more. But regardless, what you're about to learn will help make this a reality when employed and persisted. But before we go any further, please give me a moment to tell you a story. And I want to introduce to you a couple different characters here. So Mary is a 39-year-old woman who has two children, 11 and 7, happily married, works as an administrative assistant at a law firm, and she is 25 pounds overweight. Joanna is a 38-year-old woman who has two children, 12 and 8, almost the same age, also happily married, and works as a high school guidance counselor, and she is approximately 25 pounds overweight. Both Mary and Joanna decide that it is time to lose weight, and they plan on going on a diet. But before they go on the diet, they took a look. Let's take a look at what Mary says. Mary says, dieting is so hard. Dieting is so limiting. I have tried everything and nothing works. Looking at what Joanna says about the diet, Joanna says, quote, I am so excited to eat healthy, nutritious foods. I'm going to increase my energy for my children. I can't wait to wear a bikini this summer. Who do you think will be successful, Mary or Joanna? Well, hang tight because it is too premature to tell. So let's first dig into the different strategies to really think well. Okay, so that's what Mary says, Joanna. So why positive thinking isn't enough? So what do you even desire from your life? What's in your view? What's in your scope? You'll notice that this is a great picture because it shows the clarity in where the fingers are, and then everything outside is all blurry. So what helps you become clear? Because clarity affords focus, okay? If you wanted to go on a road trip, it'd be rather important to first decide where you want to go, as opposed to driving aimlessly and arriving wherever the road takes you, correct? Okay, so I got myself ahead of myself here. Right? So while the same holds true for your life, in order to bring the process to think well, you need to define what this even means to you. Maybe you desire to have, as I talked about earlier, financial security, a better, more sensual love relationship, improved health, more respectful children, a larger home, a more exciting career, etc. Regardless, what is your destination? And we know if you, in the days of GPS systems, that the first thing that the GPS system asks you to do is to type in the address of your destination. They want to know what country you're in, if it's Canada, what province you're in, you know, what street address it is, and then when you click next or finally go, depending upon what type of system it is, what does that GPS system do? What is it trying to do when it kind of spins around and thinks before it actually provides you the route? It's acquiring satellites. And acquiring that satellite then is the ability of that GPS system to identify where your starting point is. And so your starting point and your ending point is extremely important. For example, if I want to go to Kingston from Toronto, I'm going to travel east. But if I want to go to Kingston from Montreal, I'm going to travel west. So wanting to go to Kingston will be different depending upon where my starting position is. And that's kind of the first thing. What do you even desire from your life? And this quote from Thomas Leonard is extremely fitting for this first step, because once you have clarity based upon what you desire from your life, you'll be able to focus on what needs to get done outside of only positive thinking, which is obvious. So clarity affords focus, which is why we have this picture here that shows that clarity in the middle of the fingers. What is it that you want? And again, at the end of this presentation, we're going to be talking about some resources that I have used in my own personal life as I'm working through my own humanity about achieving my goal, both in my professional life, of which this presentation is a part of that world, as well as my personal life, in my relationship with my wife, Deborah, and my 3 children, Joshua, Michaela, and Rachel, and what it is that I choose to do. And we have certain systems and excellent programs in place that we can talk about, and we will talk about them at the very end, that can help you with that process, because it's not easy to look after all the different components at the same time. So step 2, what is the story that is ruling your life? And this is a very interesting step, because it really asks us to begin to contemplate the story that we have made up around why we are where we are in the process of moving through our life and the map of our life. And this quote by Gandhi is very poignant at this time, where it says, man often becomes what he believes himself to be. If I keep on saying to myself that I cannot do a certain thing, it is possible that I may end up by really becoming incapable of doing it. On the contrary, if I have the belief that I can do it, I surely can acquire the capacity to do it, even if I may not have had it at the beginning. Everything in life is what it is, and then our context, aka the words we attach to what it is, become decisive. All of us have succumbed to our story of what we deem is possible, and the longer we tell ourselves that same story, the longer we prevent ourselves from living the life that we have always desired. So let's think about step 1 for a moment and say that maybe your desire in life is to become a millionaire. That would be your what is a desire to become a millionaire. Now your story will either propel you forward, so this becomes your reality, or it will hold you back as a false sense of security, because that story that we have is our interpretation, and the decisions that we made about that observation of that reality that will determine whether or not we have the capacity to actually move away from that beginning place where that GPS identifies where we start from. Sometimes that story holds us back. Oftentimes that story becomes the boundaries or the limitations to which limit us, because we're very comfortable with that story. That story could be that perhaps you weren't encouraged as a child, and therefore you made a decision that you were not worthy of success. Or perhaps you were in relationships where there was rejection, and so as a result of that rejection, you decided and chose a story that revolved around the fact that you weren't worthy for success because everyone was rejecting you. Well, these are real stories that then become the novel within which our life is played out. And so until and unless we can get through those barriers and to the next level and push through, and the only way to do that is through action, monumental action to move inertia to get us beyond those limitations, it won't change. The vision and the dream can be there, but the action, the strategy needs to be there. And I'll say at this moment here, because it just becomes very specific and significant, that we really need to have a group to support us in this. It's very difficult to do this on our own. One of my friends, Dan Blackburn, who is a great friend and a great mentor, has talked about who is your army in his program of what it means to be legendary. And I recommend his program as a phenomenal program in that area. And I've taken that program personally myself, and I would want to give him credit for that. Who would you want to be part of your legendary team that helps you get moving through that? Maybe it's an accountability group. I can tell you that I meet every Wednesday morning for an hour and a half with 4 other like-minded individuals who want to progress their business experience to another level. And we have a process and we have a program called Business Finishing School that we've gone through. And every week I don't miss it. I would not want to miss that process of accountability. So this is very important to understand, because unless and until you become aware of what it is that your story is, you really will be only spinning your wheels trying to put action into being held back, which is not what we want. Okay, so now the next point that we have to talk about, that it is absolutely essential in step 2 to figure out what subconscious or even conscious story that you are telling yourself, that I'm telling myself, because guys, from personal experience, I will guarantee that if you are not living the life you have always desired, or you still want more, that your story is what is preventing you from manifesting this reality. I'll always be fat. I'll never have money. That story, what our philosophy of life is, okay? So step 3, moving ahead, we have to then access our drive, okay? And there's this great quote here by William Barclay. There are 2 great days in a person's life: the day we are born and the day we discover why. So what is your drive to think well? Why is it even important to you in the first place? The most powerful asset that you have is your why, as in, why do you do what you do? This statement will become your driving force even and when your old story begins to creep back into your life and starts to anchor you once again. Why do you do what you do? Why do I do what I do? I can tell you exactly what it is as to why I do what I do. And I'm going to move to it right now. I'll tell you exactly. My clear goal for every patient in my professional life is a safe and transformational experience by reclaiming their health potential from the devastating effects of sedentary living and poor lifestyle choices. Every day I get up, this is what I do. This is why I do it. I am here to give you and anyone else that you would choose to engage in this process with me a chance to live a transformational experience and reclaim the health potential that you were born to have, from the devastating effects of sedentary living, the whole sitting disease concept. So all of that is where I come from. It's the reason why I get up in the morning, and the challenge obviously is to awaken people from their slumber, because I believe, and it's part of my perspective, that our community is deteriorating from a chronic lack of movement, that we are aging too soon and dying before our time from preventable chronic disease. And so part of what I believe is that our practice, my practice, Mosaic, give the members of our community an edge. We're at work, at sport, at play, and at life. We exist to provide that safe haven for each member of our community to discover how to live whole and powerful lives on purpose. That's the reason why I get up. That's the reason why I'm doing this presentation, because I understand and realize and acknowledge that how we think determines how we behave. It's the be, do, have, not the have, be, do. You know, we need to be who we need to be before we do what we need to do to have what we choose to have. Step 4, we need to change the story. We need to rewrite the story. Okay, if you think you can do a thing or think you can't do a thing, you're right, Henry Ford. We need to change that story. Now that you're aware of the story that is holding you back, and again at the very end, we'll talk about some of the tools that we can use to help us understand that, understand how what is holding us back, and why it is absolutely essential to destruct this limiting belief. It is now time to change your story, guys, which will in turn change your life. And I can tell you that my experience, and I'll give credit here to the Landmark organization. I'm a senior graduate from the Landmark organization. Very, very beneficial experience. I pass on my learning to my patients, and some of the major themes within that is to make the story that we have created, the drama, the story, in language is of, that's not supporting language. It's the shoulda, woulda, coulda language. It's they did this to me. It's the victimization kind of language. Then there was what is to separate the energy from what is, and then to make that story empty and meaningless. And it's empty and meaningless, and it's empty and meaningless. And that comes from actually, um, it's a scriptural reference in the Proverbs to Solomon, talking about life being empty and meaningless, vanity of vanities. So it's very important that we understand that below the radar, below our understanding, can be this story that we might be unconscious to. There's three types of knowing: what we know, what we know we don't know, what we don't know that we don't know. And that's this part of that don't know that we don't know, and it's the biggest part of it. So here's an example. Go back to our millionaire example. So the old story: when I become a millionaire, I will become greedy, selfish, and probably lose all the people I care about most. That's our old story. So that keeps us in lack. But what if the new story could be: when I become a millionaire, I will have the ability to help people who are less fortunate, share my success with the people I care about most, become an even better role model for my children because they will see someone who accomplished their goals, became a better lover to my significant other, Deborah, because I will create more opportunity for us to get away, etc. Whatever you choose to do. You need to absolutely banish the story of limitations and replace this with a dialogue of opportunity. This means you might need to sit down with an almost obsolete paper and pen and begin to write your new story, the one that will guide you to where you desire for your life to go. Now, I've used a concept called Lifebook. It's a process that we promote in the clinic. It's a way that you create your premise, your purpose, your strategy, and your action for the different areas of your life. It's one of the tools that you can call the clinic, which we'll talk about at the end. But it's a way to begin to create that vision of what it is that you would choose to rewrite in terms of that story that isn't supporting the vision that you have. Okay, step 5. This is critical. Rituals for success. Okay, I rise early every morning and sit in my chamber without any clothes, whatever, half an hour, according to the season, either reading or writing. This practice is not in the least painful, but on the contrary, agreeable. And if I return to bed afterwards, before I dress myself, as sometimes happens, I make a supplement to my night's rest of 1 or 2 hours to the most pleasing sleep that can be imagined. Benjamin Franklin. And I can tell you that this is one of the biggest struggles in my life, is that whole ritualization. My personality, of which I have done some investigation into a program that we promote called Enneagram and Cold Me. My own personality, I need to work at this. This is an area of my life that I attempt to apply as much energy as possible to manage that. My genetics, in terms of my mood components, also support do not support this process. It's just not part of my makeup. I need to work very hard at this, and I confess that this is one of the hardest areas for me to overcome in. And I continually break down in this area and pick myself back up and then move towards the breakthrough. But it's hard work at this, and that's like training for life. One of the latest concepts we have in the practice is, an athlete's going to train for the game, the sport. They're going to carry the right equipment into the game. You're not going to bring a football to a hockey game, but you're not going to get to play in the elite NHL just because you can play hockey in a beer league on Saturday nights with the boys and go out drinking afterwards. You need to train for it if you're going to play at an elite level. And my challenge through this process is to get you to think about what it means to play at that elite level, which would then help you realize your dreams. So the rituals for success, so far we spent some time digging into the internal dialogue that's holding you back from thinking well and realize that life that you truly desire. But now it's time to get into some serious action. And so this concept has been passed on. One of my greatest mentors in this is Dr. Pat Gentempo, who has been my mentor in understanding the philosophy of my own story, and helping me deal with what that story means, and helping to change that story. And there's another mentor has said, do what others don't even think to do, because doing what they don't do is not enough, because there are always people out there who will do what others think to do. But if you want to truly live the life of your dreams, you must do what others don't even think to do. It's a mouthful, but it's extremely true, guys. You need to create a routine of daily rituals where the byproduct is that you think well and that you're pursuing the life that I know you desire to manifest. So things you could think about: meditation. You could have a meditation program, and again, part of what the clinic is going to be offering is a meditation program, because I've been testing out a couple different programs that are simple to use to create calm and clarity. Writing, you can, when it comes to thinking well, the act of writing every day for at least 10 minutes. That's an important component. Play. We live in a go, go, go world, and the inner child often gets lost. And so sometimes it must be resurrected in its adult form. What do you enjoy doing? Play. Reading. Find books with meaning. I love some of Stephen Covey's work, the 7 Habits. Those are great books that help us create strategies and framework to help create success. Chiropractic, central nervous system is the master controller of your entire body. And it's proven in science and literature that adjusting the spine on a regular basis, and I must plug this component, actually helps to create a better brain. Your brain actually functions better. It has more capacity to function when your nervous system is free to communicate with your body, when your spine is free from subluxation. Subluxation creates a type of blockage. The brain doesn't have up-to-date information. It only has a memory, and that memory can be negative. And so as a result, the brain begins to fatigue. And again, we'll talk about some of the technologies that we do to actually measure the brain. We have a system in the clinic that is a stress test for the brain to find out how well your brain is actually managing the thinking process. Most of the job market around the airport where the clinic is, or even other city centers, are people who are sedentary, and who think and use their brain. And so the organ that burns out first is the brain, and we're able now to help you know whether or not your brain is actually fatiguing faster than what it should be. Okay, step 6, visualize what you stand to gain. This is important. And this is a great proverb: where there is no vision, the people perish. It's now time to see yourself as someone who already is living their ultimate desired life. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What will you be doing? What does this mean for your family? What does this mean for your friends, your health, your finances, your relationships? You need to see this vision so clearly that the vision becomes your reality, and now it is just a matter of time, based on all of the action steps that you've shared and with yourself, and the ones I'm sharing with you now, in terms of creating congruence between your vision and your action. And that helps you arrive at your vision. Step 7, and this is the point I was talking about that I gained from Dan Blackburn: assemble a powerhouse team or a legendary army. Okay, talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. And Michael Jordan should know that as a basketball guru. So you need a network of people who are supporting you, and people who you are supporting. We call this, we define this type of relationship as a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of concept. Our clinic is the first place to stop to achieve this, because our entire team is on this journey with you, but extends even further than this, because the family we have built with all of our practice members are all driven to live a life based on all of their desires. What does success look like for you? And I will tell you that the average Canadian will experience success, according to Heart and Stroke, as spending the last 10 years of their life living in disability impairment. The power is in the pack, and we know that we can accomplish this together, but you need an accountability network, because on this journey you will digress, you will fall off track, and you will struggle. It's inevitable. But what makes these challenges short-lived is associating with people who get it and can get you back on. And any type of breakthrough requires a breakdown. And so we actually learn to embrace the breakdown process, because it is in the breakdown that we then begin to see what is possible. And when we create what is possible, we create it out of nothing. Creating something in something already there is impossible. If I want to reconstruct my house and my property, I'm not going to build a bigger house around my house. I will tear down this house to build that new structure, that new vision, that new reality, which is why the story is so important to be understood. It needs to be torn down. It's the old house. All right. Does that make sense, everybody? Cool. All right. Step 8, it's got to be the why. So guys, don't ever give up. Don't ever give in. Don't ever stop trying. Don't ever sell out. And if you find yourself succumbing to one of the above for a brief moment, pick yourself up, brush yourself off, whisper a prayer, and start where you left off. But never, ever, ever, ever give up. What a great quote. The final step is to reconnect once again with your why, aka your drive. Why is living your ultimate desired life and thinking well so important for you? Remember these questions. If your desire is to be a millionaire, why? If your desire is to have a sensual and loving relationship, why? If your desire is to improve your health, why? And if your desire is to change your career, why? Your why will become the new default. Whereas in the past, your old story, which would have been there, which would have held you back, was the old default. So now this default is empowering. This default will drive you, and this default will make your ultimate desire your life reality. Okay, so back to the story of the story. Okay, so the outcome of the story about Mary and Joanna is that both of these lovely ladies will accomplish their goal of losing 25 pounds and keeping it off. And the reason is because it does not matter where you begin this journey or with what thoughts, but what matters is what you do after the beginning to make your life vision become real, and how you implement changes to make your end goal. Mary and Joanna are no different than you, and the time is here and the time is now to write your own story, just like these two lovely ladies. It's your time. So guys, we are here for you because our singular focus is to improve the quality of life and health for every person we encounter. Remember what my why is, that my practice, Mosaic, exists to give the members of a community an edge. At work, at sport, and play, and at life, we exist to provide a safe haven for each member of the community to discover how to live whole and powerful lives on purpose. What do? I help people discover how to be whole and powerful. We believe it is possible to live a lifetime free from disease. Guys, that's my why. So our goal is not to scare you with this particular webinar, this report that we've given you on a webinar form. Our goal is not to create more stress. Our goal is not to prevent you from enjoying yourself, because thinking well requires work. Our goal is to help you become more aware of how to create your ultimately desirable life, your ultimate desired life, by combining positive thinking with some massive action. So guys, we are here for you. And I ask that you would consider calling the office at 905-629-0688 to have a conversation with me, to discuss options to assess your brain's capacity to support and adapt. What this is about is making sure that your brain is functioning optimally. Dementia, forgetfulness, the burning out of the brain will be critical, and we have ways of helping to keep your brain in tip-top shape, because that's where your thinking occurs. We want to discuss, if you want to discuss how to discover your own personality through 3 different online questionnaires. We use the Colby, we use the Enneagram, and we use the Lifebook Quotient, which is that program I talked about, Lifebook. It actually comes up with what your various strengths are in your life. We look at your social life, your intellectual life through this type of questionnaire, your love life, your parenting style, your future financial components, and then what your legacy will be. There's 12 different aspects of that questionnaire. Call the office to discuss lifestyle coaching and options available to support your own personal transformation. And guys, we can protect the brain from declining function performance. And part of my why too is that tragically, my mother at the age of 80 has been diagnosed with moderate Alzheimer's, and I'm making it my mission to get the word out on what it means to consider protecting the brain, protecting that area where we think, and knowing how to think properly in a way that does not tax our brain, but brings us what you hear me talk about day in and day out in the clinic: peace, love, and joy. So guys, PL and J, peace, love, and joy to everyone. Thank you for listening. Call the office. Let's have a conversation. Let's discuss what it means to personalize and individualize your own particular program. And this is Dr. Dave Harper from Mosaic Life Care signing off from this particular webinar. Stay tuned for next month, where we will have another exciting topic to discuss. And may this continually find you well, happy, and enjoying every aspect of your life. And to that end, I bid you good night.